This is going to be something that is really hard for me to share. I have never told a soul before now, and it has been eating me alive for most of my life. I am only sharing it now because, well, I don't really know how much time I have left. Mentally, I think it's almost over for me. I think I need to share this. I deserve to be judged for this. I don't know. I feel like it's my duty to at least share what really happened, rather than letting it disappear with me. It's a lot to explain, so let me simplify it by saying I had a horrible childhood growing up. This isn't a woe is me tale, don't worry. None of this will ever excuse what I did. I just want to explain why I was in the mindset that I was in. Neither of my parents wanted me. My mother made it clear every day of her life that she wished she never got pregnant so young. She had me at 17 years old. She took it out on me. She dumped me on family members, always treated me like shit, hit me, made fun of anything I enjoyed, etc. I don't even think that she got a kick out of it. I think it was just second nature for her. She was not interested in loving me or supporting me. If you asked her, she would not be able to tell you a thing about me. Whether that's music I enjoyed, my hobbies, or whatever, she was not interested. She was only interested in what I could do for her. She only wanted me to do things that would make her look good. Then my stepfather comes along. My dad passed away when I was young, so I did not really know him. But my stepfather was pure evil. He would beat me, and then he would tell me that it was my fault, that I made him do it by being so evil. He would ridicule me, constantly made fun of how I looked, and made fun of me when I was in tears at what he said. I remember one time, he told me that my father who had passed away never loved me, and that's why he was not around. That he died just to get away from me, that my dad was lucky to never have to deal with me. What was this evil that they spoke of? I wish I could tell you. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I was a perfect little angel. I was a kid. Kids are forgetful and stupid and brash, but I don't think occasionally forgetting to wash the dishes deserves that kind of treatment. As a result of this, I became something of a recluse. I was scared to even be downstairs for fear of punishment. I would lock myself away into my room and hide and try to just avoid people, because it felt like that was the only thing I could do to please people, by not being around. I would try to keep to myself, thinking it would stop the beatings. Of course, that did not happen. I would be punished for never coming out of my room and told to go outside and make friends. So I did. I tried really hard. But once I made those friends and would ask to see them, all of a sudden I would not be allowed to anymore. That I was an evil, spoiled child that didn't deserve to go outside and have friends. This cycle repeated for years and years until I was around 16 years old. Something deep inside me thought that if I just kept trying, that eventually maybe they would just stop treating me that way. That maybe my mother would love me or take an interest in me. That never happened. I grew up hating myself. Even from a young age, I did not want to be on this planet anymore. This made me engage in a lot of reckless behavior. I would hurt myself and look for any ways I could do this that could be explainable. Things I could hide. Things I could just say was just an accident. I would do stupid things and act out in the hopes that it would just stop my suffering. It was around this time I started browsing the internet every single day of my life. I would go on forums and talk to people about my hobbies and stuff. It was pretty much the only escape that I had. I made a few half-friends on there. It never felt the same as in person though. It could never fill that void inside of me. I don't know. The friendships didn't feel as real. I ended up in a lot of messed up places because of this. I was still looking for ways to hurt and punish myself. I thought I deserved it, after all. I thought that God was punishing me, that I deserved all of this. In pursuit of this, I would spend hours on gore sites like LiveLeak. I would imagine that the people in the videos were me. I don't want to go on too long with this. I'm sure it's already unbearable. Let me get to the point. Anyway, through an online friend, I discovered the deep web. He sent me a video of himself setting everything up, and I followed it, and it worked. This was pre-2010, so the deep web was a lot more wild. There were actual insane things on there. You could buy drugs, illegal firearms, that kind of stuff. And these places were not sting operations like they are now. They actually couldn't be tracked, I think, as long as you did it right. I am, of course, simplifying a lot of things. My friend told me about all of the crazy stuff on there, and I got really into it and wanted to do some research for myself. My first plan was to buy a firearm and get it shipped to somewhere nearby that was abandoned and then pick it up. Money was a little bit of a problem, but I had saved up a little from summer jobs and such. My parents made me start working from as young as was possible, and so I had a little bit in an account, and I also had money that was put aside for me to go to college. None of it was from my parents, by the way. My grandparents had passed it down to me in a way that my parents could not get their grubby little hands on. They hated my mother and my stepfather just as much as me. Anyway, while I was doing some research on this, scouring forums and other stuff, I discovered something way better, or at least it seemed better in my mind. I discovered a hitman service. For between $5,000 and $10,000, they were offering their services and that they would kill someone for you, whoever that you wanted. Now, at that price, I know what you're thinking. It's either a scam, or this person is not a real hitman and is just some idiot drug addict off the street. The thing is, I didn't really care. I had enough money, and since it was me who I wanted to be killed, I figured it would be pretty easy to set up. I could collaborate, and surely it would make the job easier and less likely for the guy to be caught. And if it was the police, which by the way, wasn't even really a thought in my mind at that time, well, I mean, you can't exactly arrest me for trying to kill myself. I thought it was a genius plan. Before I continue on, I just want to mention that I also had a younger brother. He was around 13 at this time, and he'd had just as rough of a go of it as me. When he was first born, he could do no wrong, and my parents worshipped the ground that he walked on. But once he got older, he started getting a lot of the same treatment as me. We didn't really get along. We would blame each other for things and get in fights because neither of us wanted to feel our parents' wrath. So it was like we were always competing, always blaming each other for things, trying to seem like the good one. Still, even after all this, I never hated him deep down anyway. I would be annoyed with him and resentful sometimes, but I never hated him. I knew it wasn't his fault. Anyway, both he and my parents were actually heading out on a vacation to a different state in just a couple of months. I think they were going camping and then trekking around some landmarks in nearby state parks. It was for my parents more than him. It was their favorite hobby. I was not even invited. They told me I had to stay here and look after the house, which was fine by me. I did not want to go with them anyway. So I hatched a perfect plan. I went through all the hoops and hurdles of the website, got into contact with the supposed hitman, and then wired the money using the service that I think was called eGold back then. I don't even know if it's around anymore. I haven't used anything like that in a long time. It was like a precursor to crypto and was designed to be semi-anonymous, but I don't know how safe it actually was. Definitely nowhere near as safe as Bitcoin is now and things like that. Back then, Bitcoin wasn't even a thing, I don't think anyway. Maybe it was still really young. I am skipping over a heck of a lot to make this story a lot shorter. It really is not as simple as messaging a dude and saying, "Hey, please come and kill me." There was months of planning and checks and guarantees that I had to give this guy. I obviously never met him in person, but he made me go to certain places in real life and drop things in certain places just to confirm things, I think. Again, it's a lot more complicated than I made it sound. He obviously had his reasons for certain things that I just didn't understand as a kid. Fast forward to the night that it was going to happen. My parents and my brother had left that morning, and so I wanted it to happen ASAP. I made sure to leave the door unlocked, to leave keys available for the house and other things in easy to find places. My plan was to be in my bed, waiting for him. I didn't agree this with the guy, but my plan was to get blackout drunk and lay on my bed. That way, I wouldn't be scared, and I would never have to wake up, ever again. In the discussion, it was clear that we could not use a gun, because it would attract too much attention. We agreed that the man was going to come into my room, slit my throat, and then leave the house again, using the key for the back door. He would obviously be wearing gloves, and would relock both doors to make it look like an impossible crime. There was other planning. There was a lot of other things he said that he was going to do that I didn't really understand, but it didn't really matter to me. This is going to sound deranged, but I asked him to do something else for me. I agreed to pay him extra for it. I wanted to really scare my parents. I thought they deserved to be scarred for life after what they did to me. And so I asked him to remove my eyeballs with a knife. Only once I was dead, of course, not while I was alive. It was only if he had time and could do it without leaving a trace. I don't know. I was going to be dead anyway, so it wouldn't really matter to me. Believe me, I know how messed up I am. So I got drunk on some shitty cheap vodka that my mother had stashed underneath the cupboard. I played some music, read some comics, and then I just passed out in my bed. It was probably the most peaceful sleep I ever had, which is strange considering I was so drunk. I usually can't sleep when I've had something to drink. I had already given the guy a rough plan of my house. I was the only one in my house, so I just gave a brief description of me. I told him it would be the boy passed out in bed with brown hair with comics in his room. I woke up. I was not supposed to wake up. I was never supposed to wake up again. And when I did wake up, I woke up to the sound of a fucking gunshot and a scream. I was still really drunk and I was frightened, and I had no idea what was going on. I didn't even really know where I was. I was still in dreamland, and it took me minutes for everything to click and for me to remember. Oh shit, that guy was supposed to kill me. I heard footsteps pounding down the stairs rapidly. I heard a door basically being ripped off of its hinges, and the guy didn't even lock it. I was confused, so confused. I was the only one in the house. Also, he told me that he would not be using a gun. Was I dreaming or hallucinating? Maybe I was still in my dreams and none of this was happening. The second that I stepped out into the hall, I was greeted by a bloody mess. There was blood that had been tracked through the carpet, and there were bloody footprints. The carpet looked like it had been pulled up with some force. And across the hall from me, I could see that there was a light on in one of the rooms. It was in my brother's room. My stomach dropped. My brother wasn't there. He was with my parents on vacation. What was going on? Why was the light on in that room? But, come to think of it, that scream, it did sound like my brother. I did not even rush to the room. I had to walk like a zombie and cling onto the wall for support because I was so drunk. I could not even walk in a straight line. When I finally got to the door and saw the sight in that room, I turned to the side and vomited up everything I had eaten that day. I instantly felt sober again just from seeing that horrible sight. It was my brother. My brother was lying in his bed. He had a hole inside his fucking head, and there was just blood leaking out from it, onto the bed, onto the pillow, onto himself. Why was my brother there? I was not allowed to have a phone, so I know that my mom did not text me. When I finally managed to stagger my way down the stairs, I checked around and I found a post-it note on the counter that I did not see earlier that was from my mom. It said that my brother had been sick and was laying in his bed. It told me to check on him and make him some dinner when I made some for myself. All I could do was cry. This was my fault. I killed my brother. The only thing I could be grateful for was that it was quick, that he did not have to feel the pain of that sharp metal being dragged across his throat. And I hoped that he wasn't alive long enough to feel scared. The guy I hired, oh God, he did fulfill his other promise. My brother, he had one of his eyes removed. It looked like he'd done it in a hurry, but then did not even bother with the second one. One of his eye sockets was just a gaping black hole. I was panicking. I knew I was going to jail. I had to think of something. I had to lie. I did something incredibly stupid. The first thing I did was I destroyed my computer. I took it and I smashed it into pieces, and then I hid the thing so I could toss it into the trash. I could not let anyone know what I did. And then I went into my parents' room. I took whatever jewelry I could find that looked expensive, and I hid it. I wanted to make it look like a robbery gone wrong. It was stupid, but it was all I could think of in that moment, with me being drunk and scared out of my mind. And then I called 911. I could not hold it together on the phone. I kept sobbing my heart out in between each sentence. I felt like I could not breathe. I knew that if anyone ever found out, then my life would be over. The police got there pretty quickly. One of them took me away to an ambulance outside to take a look at me. They were not pushy or anything. They were actually really kind to me, and they could tell that I was shaken up. I think they knew I was also drunk too. I did not lie about anything. I thought that if I just played clueless, then I would be more believable. I did not try to come up with a new convoluted story or try to make them think it was a robbery. I just told them exactly what happened, exactly what I saw. That my parents went away, and so I got drunk and I passed out. Then I woke up to hear a gunshot and some screaming and then some footsteps in the house. And then I saw my brother and called the police. I think they believed me. They never gave me any indication otherwise. They asked me if I saw the man or knew anything else about him, but I told them that he left before I got out of bed. I told them I was too drunk to get up quickly, and again, it seemed like they believed me. I had to give them my parents' phone number. I had to stay with a neighbor for a day or so before they could fly back. I actually asked if I could stay at the police station. They thought it was because I did not feel safe, but in reality, it was what I deserved. I did not eat or talk for the next 24 hours. My mom was hysterical when she got back. She blamed me, of course, said it was all my fault that my brother was dead, that I should not have forgotten to lock the door, that I should have checked on my brother. She told me that it should have been me who died, that the robber should have come into my room and killed me. The worst part was that she was right. Just this once, she was right, and I couldn't even argue with her. I did deserve to die. It should have been me, and it was my fault. I don't exactly know what happened with the case. Because I was a minor, they wouldn't really give me any of the gruesome details. I had to go in and give a statement a few times, but after that, just nothing. I know that they never found the guy. I don't know if they suspected robbery though. The eyeball part really weirded them out. I did some reading on what was publicly available when I got a lot older. I tried to ask about the case, etc. That's how I know that. They really could not tell me much though. My mom kicked me out of the house the second that I turned 18 years old. I lived on the streets for a while, thinking I would not last long. After a few years, I got my act together. I stopped using. I started while I was homeless, and then eventually found employment and got a house. My life actually got a lot better. I'm making decent money. I love my job. Life actually has hope for me. The trouble is, I know I do not deserve it. I can't feel happy because every good thing I get is tainted. I keep hoping that one day I will just get cancer or struck by lightning or something. I try to stay away from people. I don't want to make any new relationships because I don't deserve it, and I don't want to hurt anyone else. I hate myself. I will never be able to live with myself. All I can say is I'm sorry. It really should have been me. I've spent a good portion of my life hiking the wilds of the lower 48. Most local law enforcement, park rangers, and busybodies in nearby towns will give you the skinny. The answer is that it's people. From grow-ups to homeless mountain men to bored killers. I've only had something close to this happen to me once. I was deep in the Colorado wilderness on the other side of the Continental Divide from the Animas River. I had done some peaks and was coming back to my camp in the late afternoon. I saw some movement by my camp, so I pulled out my binoculars. I saw a filthy man wearing old-ass hiking equipment. He was probably in his late 40s. He was approaching my camp really slowly, with an old side-by-side shotgun in his hands. I keep a GP100 on me when hiking in that region in case of black bears. I was maybe 200 yards away and shot some 30 feet above his head as a warning shot. He ran. I watched him run quickly down the valley for almost a quarter mile. I quickly packed up my camp, my tent and just a few things, and I got the hell out of there. I had made it back to Durango that night on foot. I was completely smoked at the end. I'm pretty sure had I been unlucky or unprepared, I may have been murdered for my food and equipment. Yeah, I had something similar happen to me too, around 10 years ago. I was 19 years old at the time it happened. I decided to go camping in Huron National Forest with my friend. I bring my brand new Saiga that I just got at the local gun show. I hiked to our campsite in a decently remote spot. I set up and have a nice day. That night, I wake up to soft footsteps near my ear. I can still hear my friend snoring, so he hasn't gotten up to piss or anything. I think maybe it's a bear, until I hear my friend's tent zipper getting pulled. I grab my AK, I turn my flashlight on, and I burst out of my tent. I see this filthy man with a machete, and he looks at me like a deer in headlights. I scream at him to put down the knife or that I will put a hole in him. He just runs, but puts himself between my friend's tent and I so that I cannot risk a shot without hurting my friend. My friend's tent is halfway open, and he is pretty freaked out. We pack up and leave. We are looking over our shoulders constantly. I called the cops once I finally got a signal, but nothing really came of it. I am very paranoid when camping now, and I can't really get to sleep all these years later. Are these mountain hobos stupid or what? Was he going to stealth machete kill your friend and then move on to you? I don't really understand his strategy here. Is your hiking shit in the tent and he just wants to steal it? Man, if I am ever in these situations with a mountain hobo, I am shooting 100% of the time. You're gonna be fine just 99% of the time, simply because dead men tell no tales. These mountain hobos you and others are talking about are very real and very problematic. I will share my first real encounter with one. This happened to me when I was 17 years old. It was summertime and I was on a hike in a not so popular state park. I'm on my third day out of free. I'm probably around 5 miles out from the trailhead. I am cresting a hill. I see birds of carrion circling around. There are lots and lots of them. I don't think I've ever seen so many before. I can't see what it is that they're circling, but it's in the direction I'm heading, so I will find out soon enough. I crest the next hill, looking down into the prairie and the scrub brush area. I pull my binoculars out. It's a body. I look again. It's a body, but not an alive person, it's just a body. My heart is going like crazy at this point. I hit the dirt. I could not move for what felt like an eternity. I get back up and I look again. The body is still there, not moving. I am unsure what to do. Things don't seem or feel right. I circle in a little closer into the 3 o'clock position. I had been at 6 o'clock when I saw the body. About 250 yards away, using 12x binoculars, I start to get more of the story. I can see that the person ran into the area out of the tree line another 200 yards away. He must have collapsed and then crawled for a bit, and then just bled out on the spot. I decided that whatever or whoever killed them was between me and the trailhead, and that I was not going in that direction. I was not risking it. There was still plenty of daylight, so I went and headed east. The trailhead was northwest, and I did this until I hit a state road about 9 miles away. I got to the state road. I started hitching back to town that the trailhead is outside of. I get into town. I go to the police station to report the body. It turns out that it was some serial rapist who had run up on a couple he thought was unarmed, and they weren't. The guy took 2 in the gut and then bled out. Here is a story that I've never told anyone. It happened to me 9 years ago. I was in a car, driving to the Columbus, Ohio suburbs for a mandatory ERP training with another dude after work. That night, we hit a massive thunderstorm in this rural area southeast of Dayton. Over the fields, we both see a metallic shape that's just hovering. We can see the silhouette of the thing in the storm when the lightning strikes. Both of us point towards this thing and say, "What the hell?" Neither of us even considers taking a picture. We are just awestruck. We are both extremely uneasy and really just want it to disappear or be an illusion, but there it is, clear as day. Keep in mind, this is during a massive, severe thunderstorm where anything flying should be torn the hell apart. It just smoothly appears to keep pace with us, in the distance enough to stay in view, or maybe that was just a trick of perspective. I remember it being metallic and appearing ovular, like an oval, terminating in rounded edges. Looking back, it may have been a saucer viewed from the side. I don't recall at what point we made it out of the fields, or it disappeared from view. It was like I was in a trance or on autopilot somehow. We arrive at the hotel parking lot without remembering coming out of the fields or anything else. I did not even think to check my watch. We never spoke about it again to each other, or anyone else for that matter. The other guy quits about 2 weeks later. I honestly don't know what the hell that thing was, or why it made me feel so much dread. I really cannot understand why it affected me just like that, and I don't know what happened from when I went into autopilot mode until we arrived in the parking lot and both got out in silence. It seems like time just fast-forwarded almost. Has anyone else ever experienced anything like that? Okay, so this was my first paranormal experience and what got me interested in the topic. This happened to me when I was maybe 7 years old, I think. I know I was quite young, but old enough to remember. I was visiting my aunt in rural Canada. She has 2 daughters. One of them is about my age, and the other is around 5 years older. The house is near a small town off the highway. The house is in the woods. It's summertime at the time. It's kind of modernish at the time. It's a house with a main floor, a second floor, and a basement. The basement is completely unfinished. The adults leave for the day to go into town, leaving us kids all alone. I was always creeped out here for some inexplicable reason. I preferred to stay outside and wait for my mother to get back rather than spend a minute alone indoors. I hear my younger cousin in the basement talking. There is only the 3 of us kids here. The older one is upstairs, and of course I'm not there, so I don't know who she's talking to. I go into the basement to see what she's doing. I am going down the stairs, and while I am walking down them, I can feel some sort of panic inside my body, screaming at me to just get out of there. I press onward and get to the farthest back rooms. She is sitting on the floor, carrying out a conversation and playing with toys while she does so. I think it's a manufactured memory, but I seem to remember a couple of them moving without her even touching them. I am terrified and I ask, "Who are you talking to?" She looks up at me, directly in the eyes, stares for a second in silence, and then she says, the boy who lived here, and her tone sounded so dead, so monotone. She didn't sound like a little girl anymore. I take off, running away, up the stairs, and remain sitting outside for the rest of the day. Years later, I asked her about that situation. She said that some kid killed himself in the detached garage, and the family sold the house for very cheap. Granted, they were renters, and I don't know if she was screwing with me, but it still sticks out in my mind because of how scared I was for no reason at the time. So, I used to do fun ghost hunts in high school. We heard about a house that was haunted, and the family abandoned it because the hauntings got pretty bad. We drove 50 miles to the town that the house was, then had to drive 5 miles into the country, Nebraska. What we found was a house surrounded by cornfields and a mini forest. The house was really creepy, and looked like it had not seen a human in years. The paint was mostly peeled off the outside, and the inside was destroyed. When we looked around, we heard footsteps coming from upstairs, so we naturally looked upstairs. When we went upstairs, we heard footsteps from upstairs again. This time, upstairs means the attic. We found the way to the attic, and we shined our flashlights and thought that we saw a shadow move. We were naturally a little bit spooked by this, so we went back to the second floor. We stood in a circle and felt a cold spot hit us. 2 of my friends followed this cold spot as it moved around the second floor. I got scared, so I went back to the first floor. I stood on the landing with another friend right next to me. I was shivering uncontrollably, and you could see my breath, but not my friends. When the cold spot hit the top of the stairs, I felt a hard pull on my pocket. I screamed and ran. We all stood together outside, shining our flashlights in a circle when fog rolled in the light and scared the shit out of us. We ran to the cars and drove away. True story. I went back another night with the same people, only to find that the whole house was boarded up and all of the leftover furniture was outside in a pile.